Tinfoil hat.
Oh, what the fuck are you guys even talking about?
Global controls will have to be imposed, and a world governing body will be created to enforce them.
Welcome to Tinfoil Hat. We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mic. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
Are you ready to get your mind blown?
Good morning, Swarm. And welcome to Tinfoil Hat. You know I am. You know what I'm here to do. I'm here to... Okay. Joining me as always from the shadiness of Glendale, Xavier Guerrero.
Your people make it shady, not mine.
Yeah. Watch yourself, dude. We like a clean city, bro. How was your We Don't Smoke the Same Thanksgiving Day event?
It was great. It's actually now on Rockfin and YouTube, and it was live, and Steftone showed up. So any Deftone fans out there, look it up. It's a lot of Flat Earth, a lot of Astro World, so it's right up the Swarm's alley, so check it out.
All right. Do you have any more events coming out?
Nope, not as of now. Stay tuned.
All right, stay tuned. Big Christmas Day show could be coming. And joining me from the outside inside, the one, the only Johnny Woodard. How are you, Jay Nice?
Good, dude. Good. Ready to get back to LA and the warm air.
So, Johnny, you were supposed to fly, but due to
Sunday night,
the powers that be, the power bottom lizard people didn't want you in studio here. Again, canceling one of your flights.
No, they
Explain
didn't.
your feelings to us.
Well, I guess I believe them. I don't know. They said this one was just because of issue with scheduling, but I don't know. That's you hear. I mean, all these flights are getting canceled, and they're like, oh, it's just a coincidence, you know, that there's no thing,
Yeah,
nothing going on about the timing.
happens.
Yeah, right. Give me a break.
Just a heads up to everybody. They're supposed to do it big during the holiday season, during Christmas. The pilots are supposed to say fuck it, and it's gonna really hurt people. So if you plan on flying, just a heads up.
What a wonderful time to be alive, right? Come on. It's a good time. Guys, a lot of things are going on in the world. Bang, bang, bang. We're super excited that you're joining us. You know, we hit top 50 on iTunes for a show that in 2 weeks is going to celebrate 6 years. That means a lot to us. So I love you all very much. I'm very thankful to the Swarm. I can't express enough how much you guys have changed my life. So I love you very much. We try every day to knock it out of the park for you guys. And today's episode, it was wonderful. And it's another fucking great interview, I think. So I hope you guys enjoy it. It was a lot of fun getting into cults and all that stuff. So I hope you enjoy it. If you'd like to see me live, I have a couple shows coming. Okay. Big announcement, but we'll get into that. This weekend, I'm in San Diego with the guys from Cash Daddies, Howie Dewey, Chris Neff, and we're playing the American Comedy Company. Come down, get weird. Okay. Come grab some tickets. It might be one of the few times you get to see me super cheap. So grab your tickets there. Okay. Then the following week, I am in Tampa. So I'm doing two of my favorite cities back to back. San Diego, Tampa. I'm at Side Splitters. I got a couple of my friends from the area joining me on the show. Should be a banger. Come get weird. Okay. And then a big announcement. Drum roll, please. January 28th will be the next Tinfoil Hat Comedy Night slash Swarm Tank. Will be live at Harvell's in Long Beach. 2 shows. Okay. So it's available on Eventbrite. The shows will be up on samtripoli.com, and you'll be able to get tickets to both. So I was trying to do a thing where you just go, hey man, if you buy both tickets, you get a discount. But Eventbrite's a little janky, so I just took the $10 off on the second show. If you want to come to the second show, it's at 8:00 is the stand-up comedy, and then at 10:00 is the Swarm Tank, where you get to go up and pitch your favorite comedy, your favorite conspiracies to your favorite conspiracy theorist. So join us there. It should be a real fun time. Again, those tickets are available at samtripoli.com. Anywhere I am live, samtripoli.com. I'm going to be in Buffalo, I believe, the third week of January, because my date got moved back a week. I'm going to be there with Howie, but all my tickets, all my dates are available at samtripoli.com. Again, all of our exclusive content, $10. You get all, 6 of our shows? $10 on rockfin.com. Go to rockfin.com and pick whatever link you want to use. You want to do Tinfoil Hat, Zero, Conspiracy Social Club, Broken Simulation, The Greatest of All Time, We Don't Smoke the Same. You can do any of them. Join, support us, because it's a crazy time out there. And you're literally getting minimum, if you include Xavier's shows, about 7 shows a week for $10 a month. It's the best deal you ever get. It's Netflix. There's always new content for there. Even if your favorite content creator isn't putting some now, all your favorite people are there. Whitney Webb, Abby Martin, Jason Burmese, the Union of the Unwanted, Charlie Robinson, Prime Time, Alex Stein is killing it on there. The Propaganda Report, they're all there. Mark Steve's got a show on there as well. Go check it out. It's a great way to support the show. Rockfin.com. T-shirts are available. Just go to samtripoli.com, click the tinfoil hat t-shirts.com link, banner, click the banner. It'll take you right to the shirts. Shirts are on fire, guys. I love you all very much. You're crushing it on the shirts. Thank you so much for that. We have the Anti-Vax Vaccine Club. That's available. And then the list goes on. A lot of you guys are sending me graphics for shirts. I'm getting inundated. I'm going to try to answer you all so much. Just know I got your email, and I'm trying my hardest to email everybody. Daddy's running nuts and crazy, and he's going to try to take time to answer all your emails to the best of his ability. Okay. Love, 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 love. Anything else?
I think we're good.
All right. Oh yeah. Final thing. I have 6 free audio shows, 6 free shows. Just go to samtripoli.com and all my free shows are there. Also, you can check out the Telegram group here. Just go to Sam Tripoli. Just go to Ghost of Tripoli on Instagram or Fat Dragon Pro on Twitter. Click the link, should take you there. If the link isn't working, just DM me and I'll get you a link to the Telegram. There's over 1,500 people on there and it's only getting better. And my goal is 10,000 on there. So go check it out. That's the Telegram, the free shows. Go down a little bit. Yeah, look at all those free shows you can get there. Tinfoil Hat, Broken Sim, Cash Daddies, Punch Drunk, Zero, Conspiracy Social Club, and the Union Unwanted, all for free on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. Yeah, I think that's about it, guys. That's about it, man. I think I'm working on a couple other things. I'll get back to you on some more projects, but that's it. I love you all very much. Please enjoy this episode. It's a really good show with Joseph Flatley, and it's about cults, and I hope you enjoy it. And we
go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain.
All right, guys, super excited to get into this because I think this is a really big issue today within the truth community. Who's being honest? Who's not being honest? You know, whose Kool-Aid are you snorting? Whose Kool-Aid are you not snorting? This gentleman is a jack of a lot of trades. He's he's written books on a lot of different topics, and he's here today. He has a wonderful book on possible alien psyop cult leaders. Please welcome Joseph Flatley. How are you, Joseph?
Fantastic. Great. We finally got to connect.
Dreams come true, brother. I'm very excited to have you on. You've definitely fit in. Your vibe, your style, everything is perfect for this show. And if you're interested, I would like to replace Johnny with you. That's on the
Let's
table.
definitely talk.
Just
After.
know that's on the table, Johnny. Just
right.
watch yourself. Johnny, by the way, is
Mhm.
both indoors and outdoors based on his backdrop and the fact that he's got 3 layers on right now.
I'm in the
So let's-
attic. It's 50 degrees up here. There's no heating or air in the attic is where I am. So I have a space heater at my feet and all of this part is freezing. By the way, we should talk about some of the, let's say, responsibilities you have with this podcast before you accept any offers. Trust me on that.
Does that include Broken Sim? Is he taking over Broken Sim as well?
Snaps. Great question, but that's a question for a different podcast. Joseph, for our listeners who may not be familiar with you, can you tell the swarm a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm a journalist. I've always been attracted to, fringe topics, alternative topics, and have been lucky enough that in my career, I've been able to kind of focus on those things. My current project is a newsletter and a website that's going to launch any day now called Failed State Update. And it really asks the question, is America going down the drain? And if it isn't, why does it seem like it is? If it is, what can be done about it? Failed State Update. It's about the culture of American decline, as one journalist put it. So,
I find that topic very interesting
and important and timely. And I definitely think the UFO cult is an important part of that, because people are just, the institutions have failed us, all the institutions. And it's like, in this time of looking for alternatives to the institutions, it's easy. There's a lot of bad actors, and you're probably more likely to come across a con man than you are someone who's legitimate,
Hey guys, I want to tell you about our friends at Homedics. Okay, Homedics air purifier. Listen, if you have kids, you have pets, you realize kids just bring in tons of germs. Your pet's bringing tons of germ, dust, everything. It's just making air quality crazy. And that's why my friends at Homedics have created the #1 air purifier out there. Okay. Homedics sent me their Totally Clean air purifier, and it's amazing. Totally Clean's air filtration system and UVC light removes up to 99% of airborne allergens, including pollen, pet dander, smoke, and mold. It purifies the air in large rooms up to 343 square feet, and it's much cheaper than those crazy expensive air purifiers. Okay. Plus, it's more compact than those bulky air purifiers that it doesn't take up a lot of your space in your home. Okay. It's real easy. The inside of your house can be up to 5 times dirtier than the air outside. That's why Homedics designed the Total Clean air purifier collection with a variety of needs and rooms in mind. Okay. Boom. In 1987, a Detroit family founded Homedics, okay, to help people live better lives. Today, they've established the leader in wellness and home health innovations backed by traditional wisdom and modern technology, okay? And Homedics has an A+ Better Business Bureau ratings, so they're a brand you can rely on, okay? Guys, I have a Total Clean air purifier. I use it at my place. I can tell you, I can feel the difference. I can taste the cleaner air, okay? The cleaner air is there, and it makes me feel better about myself. I know I'm living in a happier place with my family. I know my dogs are living life and loving it, okay? And it's all because of the Total Clean air purifier. Okay. So whether you're dealing with allergies or just looking to keep your family safe, we've got good news for you. Okay. Right now, if you go to homedics.com, that's HOMEDICS.com/tinfoil and use the promo code tinfoil, you'll receive a free replacement filter with your purchase of your air purifier up to a $99 value. That's a free replacement filter when you go to HOMEDICS.com/tinfoil and use the promo code tinfoil. I don't know if you guys are watching Dope Sick on Hulu.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. I love it.
I mean, anything that you want to explain to normies, have them watch Dope Sick and just replace Purdue Pharmaceuticals with whatever government agency you don't like, and replace OxyContin with whatever, whether it's viruses, propaganda, law, that's all you got to do. And the thing is, when someone new comes to what we're talking about here, they think what we're talking about happened over maybe a couple weeks or months, or even possibly a couple years. We are talking about a rot that is happening for decades, if not centuries. And it's culminating into this head right now where it's almost too big to hide anymore. And I don't know what your beliefs are in the role of the internet, how free the internet is. I've been watching these videos on the dead internet and stuff like that. And what are we really having this incredible exchange of knowledge, or is it just like kind of what they call a Potemkin village type thing? I forget if that's the exact term for
Potemkin
it.
village.
Yeah. Is it just an illusion of that? What are your thoughts?
I think social media specifically is the blame for a lot of this mess that we're in. And it's not even necessarily bad actors. Of course, there are bad actors involved taking advantage of it. Don't get me wrong. But just the very nature itself of the type of communication that takes place over Instagram and Twitter, I think really just has everybody thrown for a loop. It's almost impossible to have real substantive communication, and you end up having people just sucked into this crazy stuff. I think it's the very and luckily we're very early into the internet age, so I think maybe a lot of this stuff will shake out over the next 20, 30 years. I mean, perhaps things were just as convoluted after the Gutenberg Bible or movable type was invented. Someone like John Zerzan will say that type of communication technology had just as crazy an effect on society as the internet is now. But yeah, I mean, the internet kind of sucks. I mean, I couldn't do what I did without it, but also there's a downside.
We just had a guest on, and when you're in the middle of a show, you're like, I like this. I hope it resonates with people. And then you kind of put it out, and there's been shows where like, and then there's shows where like, yeah. And you never know what the reaction is. And the last show was a great show. JT's a friend, and I enjoyed it. And he went really deep on a couple things. And I was like, I'm dying to see how the crowd the listeners react to it. And they loved it. And I've gotten a ton of emails about, breaking out of the matrix and stuff like that. But one of the things he talked about that I felt like really connected with me was about the role of computers, and how like computers, as great as the internet is and as great as computers are, there's a lot of bad that comes with it, right? Like this show is like such a blessing. I think about my career and I go, I couldn't be this guy 20 years ago or even 10 years ago. I'm so blessed that I was able to hold on to the internet got to what it is today. So that in fact isn't a blessing, right? But then there's other sides to this that are some of the stuff you're bringing up, the dumpster fire that is social media, the over sexualization of everything, like free porn and what that's done to men and women and and then men, women that are in the middle too. Can't leave out those people as well. So we have this kind of super hyper sexualization of everything all the time. And then we have like cultural Marxism that's been able to be put in full motion, and for me, the role of like BlackRock and Vanguard and State Street, which are these giant investment firms which run this, environmental social government policies that if you don't score high enough on those, they won't work with you. And like what role that has in this kind of anti-business era we are in, where it seems like the bottom line and the customer doesn't matter. And how much of that has to do with the fact that the Fed is bailing out all these people. So that's a lot to go over right there. But like how much of the computer, how much is this and this computer that we're working on a problem and a part of it?
Well, it's so, and this is one of the reasons I'm a journalist, that social media and, just the new communications age really forces a kind of siloing where, putting people in silos, talking about their bubbles, so that, if you're spending all your time on Twitter, you think reality is one thing because you follow, certain blue check liberals or whatever. And then if you unplug your computer and, I'm in Pittsburgh, I'm an hour away from West Virginia, and, that's a completely different reality. So now we have kind of competing reality tunnels, and I'm not sure how we're supposed to kind of like bridge that, because, competing realities get really ugly once they lead to wars or violence or what have you, dehumanization.
I kind of saw it live not too long ago with the Kyle Rittenhouse thing.
Mm-hmm.
Some people literally thought the guys were black, that he wasn't getting chased down, but then you show them exactly what happened and then they take it back. But that's after doing a little bit of research, not what the media reads and just reading articles. Yeah. And that's when I really, like, my sister, once I told her, I was like, yo, this is what happened. She's like, oh, okay, never mind, I take it back.
Yeah. And then, there's really something to be said about the greater context. Do we want to live in a country where, people see something shaking down in the street, so they grab their guns and join it, and it's like, or it was self-defense or what have you. It's, and the legal system is so effed anyways, because they're not trying to get to the truth. They're trying to get their verdict. So,
that's the adversarial system, right?
Yeah. Neither side is incumbent on like telling the whole story. Neither side really cares about the truth. They just want to get their guy off or get the other guy thrown in jail, depending. So it's just like,
it's about being right, not doing right, in my humble opinion. And when it comes to the Rittenhouse thing, it's like I put out some because he's suing Whoopi Goldberg and what Joy Goring or whatever her name is from The View, and it's like anything. That show is such garbage, right? And I believe it has a right to be on TV just because I don't like it, but I put a tweet out, PSYOPs suing PSYOPs, right? And somebody's like, hey, dude, he's not a PSYOP, he's real. And I go, what's so interesting is like, when I was like coming up through the whole conspiracy stuff, someone always said the best like controlled opposition are the people that don't know they're controlled opposition, right? They like believe that this like thing happened naturally. And that's kind of like the video from the dead internet, which was like, I would watch, like, I'm never going to say their name, but certain comics I know in Los Angeles, they would just tweet random garbage and it would get like 500,000 likes, 3,000 retweets. And you're like, why is this getting this much traction? Like, it literally means nothing. And, according to this video and other things I've read, it's like when they determine whether you are putting out stuff they like, or not putting out the stuff they like, that kind of how they can like determine what they prop up and what they suppress a little bit with their shadow banning. And that's a big reason why on like Instagram, sometimes I'll post something with no caption because then they can't interpret what I'm saying on it. I'm just if it's like somebody's tweet and stuff like that. And it gets very interesting because there's other times, because I'll have an Instagram. Anyways, the point is, it's like, that's the manipulation of everything going on. Yeah, it's like sometimes people don't know they're just getting pushed forward because they're just pushing a narrative that they want from both sides, which is super interesting to me.
Yeah. I think the messages get off the internet. I mean, 100%. Download tinfoil hat and then get off the internet, go for a walk.
I have a new rule, 5 post limit on social media a day. 5. I can only post 5 things because I could just sit there all day, just dropping dank memes and just looking like I'm fighting the forces of evil, but I'm doing nothing. I'm really just doing nothing. And I realize that. And, conspiracy podcast, if you do this right, you'll be called a controlled opposition by everyone and everything. And
already some dude wrote a book, devoted a chapter to me about how I'm a shill for Mossad because like I said that the earth is round and they're like, whoa, like somehow they went from that. I mean, agree or don't disagree, whatever. But to go from that to like, I'm working for Israeli intelligence in like 5 convoluted steps. It's so bizarre. Like that was really my I think that's the highest honor I've received. Like a whole chapter in a book about what a SOB I am. It's pretty great.
Dude, you're not doing anything until you get called out on something.
For real.
When it's like Howard Stern says, it's your haters that make you. Hey guys, I want to tell you about our friends at Trade. That's right. drinktrade.com/tinfoil hat is where you can get the best coffee out there, dude. You guys love coffee?
Stoked, love it.
I go to bed thinking about drinking coffee in the morning. I drink coffee before I go to bed. I can't do Trade coffee because it's fucking kicks ass and I'll be up for 3 days because it's the best coffee out there. I love coffee. You love coffee. I don't even know what I would do without my coffee. But Trade coffee guarantees you'll love your first match. Trade's goal, very simple, okay, is to make every cup of coffee your best ever, okay? The journey to your perfect cup starts with taking their quiz, okay? Yeah, you could use a fresh press, automatic drip, cold brew person. No problem. Your answers will allow Trade to pair you with the perfect coffee to fit your taste, man. It's just that simple. Trade will match you to coffees you'll love with 400 plus craft coffees. Come on, craft coffees. I'm all about that, dude. And they will send you the freshly roasted bag as often as you like. It's just that simple. So here's what they're doing dude, listen to me. Trade coffee. Bang. Bang. Look at me. I'm alive. I'm alive and ready to rock. I'm ready to fight lizard people. Dude, every day I go get Krav Maga. Guess what I do? Bang, Trade coffee. And guess what I do? Trade blows and fight lizard people. That's what I do. So here's what's going to happen. For our listeners, you the swarm, this is what we're going to do. Right now, Trade is offering you your first bag for free and $5 off your bundle at checkout, okay? To get yours, go to drinktrade.com/tinfoil and use the promo code tinfoil. Take the quiz to start your journey to the perfect cup. That's drinktrade.com/tinfoil. Promo code tinfoil for your first bag free and $5 off your bundle. Enjoy it. There's a lot of stuff going on in the UFO era. This might be considered outside the crash from Roswell, like the golden era of UFOs. And with everything, there is always going to be some grifters who work an angle. You saw it with Q, and that's not really a conversation. That's a different conversation, but just the people who are selling merch and all this stuff. And, and then when it didn't go, the plan part didn't work out. Silence, you don't hear from them. Their YouTube channels are gone. And every movement's going to have nefarious people in it who are just trying to grift for a dollar. And then there's going to be people that just follow blindly on both sides, So we have this group of people now, like on the left, just, oh my God, you're a Q-tard, you're being the Q-tard, doing Q-tard shit, JFK's son, blah, blah, blah. Why they're all the time being like, Russians stole the election. I'm telling you, it really fucking happened. I have all this evidence according to this podcast I listen to. And it's just so interesting. You hear this a lot also, like, you hear it from the right, the left eats himself alive. Well, what conspiracy theorists call everybody fucking shills and fucking controlled opposition too. So it all becomes the same fucking thing. You're always going to have these fringe wackadoodles who are always going to be just always trying to find patterns that aren't there.
Yeah. And and that's the whole, people really just, lead with their beliefs first, and they're usually stupid beliefs. It's like, Robert Anton Wilson, convictions make convicts was one of his sayings. It's like,
I love that.
Yeah, we really just gotta, and maybe this goes back to our conversation about social media. Maybe the first thing that's going to happen to make social media not be this horrible, this horrible human sinkhole is, we're going to have to start being a little slower to believe and a little quicker to investigate, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think there is a big movement. You kind of alluded to it earlier about how people going to come together. I don't know why, man. I have faith in humanity. I know it sounds nuts, but that people are waking up on both sides to how ridiculous the leaders and the loudest barkers in their movement really are.
Mm-hmm.
And that, everything needs to be on a local level and to stop, thinking everything is a jihad in life, and that everybody is, I've learned that people aren't as good as everybody thinks, but they're also not as bad.
No, I think you're right. One of the blessings of being a journalist to me is just meeting different people I agree with, most people I don't agree with, and I just like people, and it's like, I think you have to, and the social media thing makes humans others, makes them not people. Like, I've definitely noticed this with myself. Like, if I get like a couple texts from somebody and I'm in a bad mood, I get really pissed off. But the first time I talk to them on the phone, all that goes away. It's like you're having a real human connection, even just over the phone. You're hearing a voice, you're responding, you're getting the little subtle nonverbal cues, the tone of their voice or whatever. I'll tell you straight up, I'm a leftist. I'm a man of the left. But, I think the most important part of that is believing in the power of individuals and not political parties, not political projects like, the Democratic Party's trying to shove in our faces. I think, the actual basics of like, what is it to be a human being around other human beings are the most important, to me. That's what's going to get us out of this problem. So like you, I am optimistic, but with reservations, and some things are going to have to change for things to work out, I think.
I completely and utterly agree with that. I think it's I think what people are realizing is that, whatever they say about the other party, you could find in your own party. And that I think people are starting to realize that the parties are just two wings of the same bird, in my humble opinion. And they just kind of play to each other. And, the truth of the matter is like, you should never have any political heroes. And you should question everything all the time. Yep. Everything. People on the show should question the show constantly. We say some retarded shit. You should question all of it all the time. And I think it's very important, because I just think everything is like about trying to get you out of the moment of now.
Mm-hmm.
And worried about stuff way over there, over here, this person's flight, that person's fucking battle, that, and you're never going to focus on what's going on right around you.
Mm-hmm.
And where you can actually make change, which is, to me, really important. And I, it's just a very interesting time, man. And, I just today I watched a video, and it was a video of a Black Friday situation where it almost looked like it was so staged that people had gone in and they're grabbing this yellow package. It's just a pile of a yellow package, and apparently everybody wants it. And you see them all grabbing it, and a woman grabs a package and rips it from a child. And then the mother goes nuts on that woman. And I'm like, maybe Bill Gates is right. And we need to lose about 15% of you guys. You know, maybe we see, like, we can find common ground on everything if we really work.
even
there's a
decimating the
psychological
population.
There's a psychological principle there. The reason these Black Friday sales work and draw so many people, and the reason that there are those riots, is because they have the effect, the whole ritual, the whole process of, you know, lining up and then, you know, being let loose in the store at 6 a.m. or whatever, has a psychological effect of dehumanizing people and putting like the product ownership at the forefront. I mean, it's like they do that obviously because it works, you know. It's, you know, obviously the point is profits, but the mad dash and the fighting and the pulling stuff from a child's arms, you know, it's all a byproduct of it. And, you know, we've decided as a society, or at least the corporations have decided, that it's worth it. You know,
It's also this artificial sense of scarcity, right? That they're generating.
Yeah,
this
that's
big
exactly what I was going to say. Scarcity.
Yeah.
It's not abundance. Like you're going to be able to find that product somewhere. I guarantee you, but you've been told, grab it now, because when it's gone, it's all, and it's just this mental warfare on you. But it goes down to this, you know, when I'm at the airport and I see somebody waiting for the plane in a hazmat suit, and I go, like, where are you living right now? What is going on in your world? Like, describe the environment. I would love to know, what is your environment right now? Yeah. What are you thinking? And then the reason it applies to kind of what we want to talk to you about is it reminds me of when I would watch docs on Scientology, right? Mm-hmm. And you would listen to what these people went through to get to this level where they were basically like triple black belt in Scientology, right? They had all the kung fu, right? Yeah. And then they were handed like a written letter by L. Ron Hubbard, and it was like just dick doodles and him like me pee pee poo poo, and they were like, this is it. I gave you everything in my life. I stopped talking to my family for this level. And I go, do I feel bad for these people? Do I feel bad for these people? Because all the signs were there that we're like going down a road that might not lead us to where we want to. And
yeah, I feel bad for those people. And I'll tell you why. This is not, it's all things being equal. It's not like any random person bumped into Scientology and had informed consent and just decided with full awareness to go down this road. It's a psychological, you know, it's Black Friday again. It's a psychological process.
That's what we're talking about here.
Yeah. So it's done, you know, it is, all these cults do. And, you know, I'm very clear when I'm writing in my book, I'm talking about destructive cults. I'm not at all talking about non-mainstream religions, or, you know, I don't have a problem with people believing things I don't believe, because, I mean, you know, it's America. We believe whatever we want to believe, you know, but people that use the cloak of religion to perform these psychological tricks on people to rip them off and ruin their lives, you know, for whatever reason, usually for a profit motive, you know, and usually because the rogue guru is, you know, has psychological problems, you know, people that fall for that are victims. Like, it's, you know, just as if they were a victim of a physical crime, it's an emotional crime or psychological crime.
I think it's very interesting. I used to have a joke about how, like, I don't think there's any little dick cult leaders. I don't think you can have a little dick and then fucking run everything. I don't know why. It just seems like you gotta have big dick energy. Yeah. And to be able to manipulate people like that, I would love to hear if anyone's ever done research on dick size of cult leaders.
Oh, that's interesting.
Hitler's been known to have a small dick.
What's that?
Hitler's been known to have a small dick.
Hitler?
Yeah, he ran shit.
That's interesting. That is, and then
he was known to only have one testicle.
Maybe that testicle was a giant testicle.
Napoleon was a tiny man, so maybe Maybe it's related
But
to
you know,
being-
little dudes could be hung like horses. You know,
Yeah, that's
you know,
true.
it's definitely possible. They're like their tripods.
Yeah,
and
good
shit.
point. Yeah.
But you know, back to a very respectable show, Johnny. Okay.
What? You're the one who brought up dick energy.
So let's get into this gentleman in the UFO, because again, to tie it all together, this is an interesting time in this golden era of UFOs. We've had friends on our shows who have seen UFOs, have a lot of encounters with them, and we've had people who've gone and met with them and saw the UFO. So it's like it's all there, but there's obviously going to be some wolves in sheep's clothing in this movement. There's always going to be some bad characters in any movement.
Right. And you know, and Gabriel of Urantia, which is the new name of the guru I'm talking about. His name's Tony, really. Tony Delavin. He's from Pittsburgh. He you know, child of the 60s. He tried to have a music career, but he couldn't make it because he's not very good. He tried to, you know, wives kept divorcing him. He, you know, so he left Pittsburgh, where I am, by the way, moves to Sedona, Arizona, changes his name to Gabriel. Now he's got like multiple partners and hundreds of followers and a radio station in Tucson that plays his terrible music like over and over, like 24 hours a day. And the, you know, Gabriel got to that point, and it's really interesting. There's kind of like a lot of these, you know, cult leaders, they're con artists, but they also have these experiences, these altered states of consciousness experiences. Like Gabriel didn't get serious about his, you know, starting a community until he started hearing voices, till he went up in a spaceship and you know, hung out with his dead grandmother, and they told him, you know, you should start this community. And yeah, that happened in the 80s, and the community started in like 89, I think. And you know, all the stuff we talk about, UFOs and UFO beliefs, that all comes from the leader. Like, he's living a great life. He's got a mansion that his followers, you know, built for him and paid for. He's got businesses that they operate for him, but they're just, you know, they're living in a compound picking beans waiting for the end of the world. It's just really,
you know, it's so interesting. So I've had people on here who have told me they've had near-death experiences, they've astral projected, and the list goes on and on. And I was like, okay, yeah, I totally agree with you. Now you tell me that there's a story about a guy who said he went to space, met with his dead grandma, who told him about doing all this. And I'm like, duh, so stupid. I'm like, what does that say about, that's just interesting about me and my wiring and how I interpret stuff. Like, why am I, and maybe this goes into the news and how people look at Trump versus how people look at Biden, and how people look at Biden versus how they look at Trump, where it's like, they could be doing almost the same thing, but what lens are you looking at it through, whether you accept it or you mock it? And it's like, okay, so if I'm going to accept that, I did whole shows, multiple shows on near-death experiences, and I completely and utterly believe in that. But when somebody told me that a guy named Tony from Pittsburgh went to a spaceship and met with his dead grandma, I'm like, oh, dude, so ridiculously stupid. Why? It's just an interesting.
I mean, it's hilarious. It's ridiculous.
It is hilarious, but is it any crazier than near-death experiences?
You know, no, it's not. And there's a and I think if he was like a cool dude who had like a really good community where people were flourishing and, you know, people weren't being abused, I'd be like, oh, that's a nice story. That's interesting. It wouldn't like evoke the ridicule, but this guy is really a piece of shit, you know? But there's also a phenomenon of these kind of experiences that unleash something in people. Like Jim Jones, I think, was the same kind of guy. Or in book 3, Aleister Crowley talks about like geniuses like Jesus and Moses, people who are just by all intents and purposes perfectly normal. Then they, you know, go out into the desert for a few days, and they come back, and all of a sudden everybody's listening to them. They have that charisma. It's a thing that human beings do, I think, that we don't understand. And I wouldn't be surprised if he had some of that, Gabriel, Tony, but it's not always a good thing, apparently.
Well, let's not just like apply that to cult leaders. Let's apply that to so many, not all people, but so many people who rise to the top of whatever industry they're in.
Yeah.
There's a bit of psychopath and cutthroat that goes on, because most people with consciousness don't want to do with a conscious, don't want to consciousness, but conscious don't want to do that. They don't want to do those little things that determine how far they could go. Like things like when they're willing to like, hey, dude, you're probably going to fuck some people over here, but the company's going to make a couple more bucks and it's going to do a little better. And they're like, no, that's not who I am. Okay, well, you're fired. And again, going back to Dope Sick, that's a big part of that. Like how many people that worked at Purdue couldn't sit there and do that anymore. So there is a level of that. It's like, again, it goes back to something I've learned in recovery is like your ego is not your amigo. And there's nothing wrong with a healthy dose of ego, because it helps get you through these times where you're kind of got, Bambi legs and your legs are shaking. You're like, do I have what it takes? You kind of got to have this a little ego of believing in yourself, but there's also ego that can consume you, that drives you to just do things that most people aren't comfortable with doing.
And that is what brought me to this topic. And that's why I wrote this book. I really kind of resent this whole Netflix thing where, every time you turn on the TV, there's like 20 new documentaries and they're all about cults and they're like freak shows. It's like, oh, look at the freaks in the cult, and it's like, these are human beings having human experiences. I think what the cult leader, the destructive cult leader, the charismatic figure, what they do is an extreme and extremely unbalanced example of what exists in all of us. And I think by looking at these extreme examples, you can understand a little more of yourself. I think one of the most obnoxious things that human beings do is separate themselves, go, oh, that guy's crazy, but I'm perfectly healthy. I'm perfectly normal. I don't make mistakes, or, it's just like a really gross thing that people do. And I think that, a certain type of documentary can increase that kind of like circus geek freak show thing, which, my book, I try not to do that. I'm doing, I think, the opposite kind of. I think any human being can be screwed up enough to become a cult leader. And you really have to be, pity the cult follower, but at the same time, pity the cult leader. They don't lead a good life. They're not happy. They might have everything they think they want, but they are miserable.
Yeah. And it's so interesting. I was just thinking about this today, about how I see a bunch of my friends in Hollywood, and I watch their game and how they're operating. Mm-hmm. And there's a little bit of like moving shells around, right? There's a little bit of the, what's it called, Johnny? Patunkan Village. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Patunkan Village.
Yeah. A little bit of that. And to get this kind of goal in life and this level of fame and this level of success. And then you see, I know so many people get that and they're so miserable. And because they thought, and Chris Farley is a great example of that. The guy thought if he got fame and fortune, he'd be happy, and he realized that it meant nothing to him, and he kept doing drugs to the point that he died of an OD. God rest his soul. So I wonder if that fits in to what a cult leader does, because there is something, especially male cult leaders, right? Yeah. There's something about like being the alpha, getting all the females, and ultimately that seems to be like every moment in a cult, which is, now I fuck your wives, right? And like there's something about that moment. And then maybe to get that and realize that has nothing to do with happiness, and now you're stuck into this thing.
I think that's why you have like the Jonestown the bad ending, I mean, it's like, it's a real psychological syndrome. This kind of, they act like the big man because they're the little man, they're, they know that they're have nothing. That's why they keep trying to fill their soul with the money and the people, the sexual conquests. And, we could be talking about cult leaders. We can talk about, CEOs of corporations.
Yeah, 100%. And like people never talk about, but one of the highest suicide rates in the world is in CEOs of companies.
Mm-hmm.
They get there and they realize that the top of the mountain is lonely and not what they thought it was.
Right.
And it just ends up being, so you see this self-destruction with these cult leaders. Why were you drawn to this guy? Was it that he's from your area? It's like, hey, local cult leader, check it out, which would be an interesting podcast.
Yeah.
You find a city and you find out what cult was from that city. That'd be such an interesting.
Oh yeah. I'm writing that down. That's a good one. Well, it was a couple things. So in addition to having a cult, he's got a rock band. It's a weird name, Tallius Van and the Bright and Morning Star Band. So there's like 2 ampersands in this band. And it's like just kind of very competent, boring, like hippie jazz band music, like jam band music rather. But he can't sing at all. And he's like singing over it. And it's like his followers really like preach that like this is the greatest music, and that, if you listen to it, you'll have like spiritual awakening and stuff. And it'll open your chakras and stuff. And so a friend of mine just showed me a video of his. He's like, you got to see this, it's hilarious. And it was hilarious. And I like, not even thinking as a journalist, I just like shared the video on social media. I'm like, this is hilarious. And one of his former followers who had gotten out and for years just spent he was really angry, and for years he spent all his time online, like just Googling his former guru, trying to like find people to talk to. He found me and he was just like, man, you think this is crazy, you have no idea. So we talked for the first time in 2016, and he tried to talk me, and for years he tried to talk me into doing this story, and I was drawn to it, but I wasn't really at a place in my life where I could like take on another big project. And then 2019, I decided I gotta pursue this. It's too good. The cult leader's daughter actually escaped, and she was out for a couple years, and then she decided that she was finally ready to like go public and talk about her experience. And that to me is a very compelling story. Cult leader's daughter, on the outside. So that's when I started. I actually did a 8-part podcast. I drove out to Arizona and met some former followers and went to the cult for a church service and met people who knew Gabriel before he was Gabriel. Then over the course of a year, interviewed more people and did like this podcast series that then became this book that Feral House, a pretty respectable indie publisher, published in August of this year.
It is. I actually dated a chick whose father was a cult leader, a very famous Mexican cult leader. She was phenomenal, gorgeous, like 6-foot Mexican, gorgeous.
All right.
Gorgeous. Was in my acting class. Probably the prettiest woman I've ever dated. And what's that?
High five.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely good. When I'm going out and I'm going through my highlight reel, she will be on it multiple times. Okay, when I get my last, I'm like, oh, I miss you. But yeah, she was going through that, and it's like the psychology of that. And me having daughters, I just had daughters like 2 years ago, a little less than 2 years ago, and I think about my effect on them, and like even just doing shows like this, like what kind of effect is that going to have on when they grow up and they listen to what dad's doing. So it's got to be incredibly. Childhood is hard enough. I couldn't imagine growing up in a cult and your dad is like the leader of the cult.
Well, the cult leader is not emotionally available. and will never be emotionally available to the people. And it's like adults in his life can be like, all right, fuck this dude, you know, but like a child is going to want that connection and is going to be really screwed up because they can never have that connection, you know, just despite what you may think. It's just emotionally, it's like, it's natural. You want a parent to love you and to protect you, and to never have that is very damaging. And it's actually an interesting story with the daughter, because she kind of, after the cult found out about my podcast, they kind of started talking to her, I think as a method of controlling me. They tried to talk her out
Human Resources call her up from the cult, like,
yeah,
"Hi,
basically,
this is Sarah and Human Resources."
Yeah, so we hear you've been talking to Joe Flatley. You know, they tried to get her to, like, you know, stop the podcast, which she couldn't do because, you know, you can't do that. And and like, it's become this whole thing now where like she's not in the cult, she's living in another state, but they get her on the phone, and she kind of like, they got her to try to stop my book by, like, you know, hiring a lawyer for her that like sent us letters, you know, not legal, like it didn't go into the court system, but we got, you know, I got a lot of threatening letters from lawyers over this book. And you know, it's like this woman who, like, basically I spent 2 years telling her story, and at great personal expense, because you don't make a ton of money writing these little books, you know. And then what I get from her in return is like letters from lawyers and screwing with, you know, trying to, you know, it's like, so it just goes to show you, like, and I see the relationship that she has with her parents now, and it's very much one-sided. It's very much, you know, for the parents, it's a matter of like a marriage of convenience. It's, you know, it's a manipulation. But, you know, something about whatever's going, you know, whatever that dynamic is, you know, she's can't help but be sucked back in. It's, again, tragic, you know.
So what is the cult's basic belief?
So there is a new age book. It's supposed to be a channeled book. It's called the Book of Urantia, and it's actually a pretty cool book. And but Gabriel of Urantia is not connected to that religion, but uses their book, has taken it on as his own, and basically preaches from the book that his followers are what he calls divine government. So the end of the world is coming soon, and when the end of the world comes, his followers will leave their compound and they'll be the government of this new paradise that exists on the earth. So you know, literally, like, one of his followers might become the you know, governor of California, or, you know, the mayor of Pittsburgh. So so that's kind of the basis of it. And then on top of that, he has this system of a spiritual hierarchy that these channeled aliens speak through him and give you like your cosmic ranking. So it's like they believe.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
really? You get your
Yeah, it's-
cosmic ranking?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
that'd be brutal, dude.
Oh, it is. And you go up and down all the time. It's control. It's like, oh, you know, somebody's a little too high on their horse, knock them down a couple pegs and freak them out. And like, men cannot have lower rankings than their wives. So like, if he wants to split up
I'm listening.
if he
Yeah.
wants to split up a couple, he'll like promote the wife, and then all of a sudden they can no longer be together. And he does that to keep people on edge. You know, he does that very purposefully. He breaks up couples, breaks up families, takes children out of their family and puts them in another family.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
We should do
It's
that on the
brutal.
podcast. We should start doing that. I feel like I'm
Power ranking?
creeping. Yeah, I feel like I'm creeping up a
No.
little bit, maybe, and Sam maybe
Well, I'm
drop
gonna be
down.
honest
with
with
the
you.
dick
Right
energy.
now on this show, Joe's number 2, and this is his first show.
I don't even have a hat on. I don't even have a ball cap on.
Dude, that is and that is what it's all about. Divide and conquer, divide
Yep.
and conquer.
Yep.
And separating children from their parents is like one of the number one ways to ensure a disconnect from the past. It's been done through history forever. Take children out of the house, bring them somewhere else so they don't know who they are, where they came from, their history, any of that stuff. And it's like psychologically done on purpose to inflict maximum damage and to make people more controllable over time.
Well, the cult leader becomes the parent, or in the case of, Native American schools 150 years ago, the government becomes the parent. So it's absolute control tactic, and it's like very easily understandable. Are you familiar with a cult called Synanon?
No.
It basically, it's an outgrowth of was an outgrowth out of Alcoholics Anonymous, basically. Charles Dederick in California, he was like an early AA member, and it worked so well, and he was kind of nuts. So he realized that he could use this system to control people. So he spun it off. He called it Synanon, and it's quite famous. He was beloved for many years, like in the 60s and the 70s. Like, they were basically like, you solved addiction. There's no more addiction because of you. And really what it was a money-making scheme. And one of the first things they did was they separated kids from their parents, and they had the kids, raised by other people. They said it encouraged like independence, and it encouraged intelligence, but it was a total scam. The IRS shut them down in the 90s. One of their members joined this Gabriel cult and is a PhD psychologist, and
oh my God,
brought those teachings to him. So they use they don't just most cult leaders they're naturals. They're not they didn't learn how to brainwash. They just kind of figured it out the way that any kind of socially maladjusted gaslighter kind of figures it out in life. But these
That'd
guys
be great if there was a master's class, how they have those masters.
Well, I think she could teach it. I think this woman could teach it. It's definitely, so yeah, this group has a very real dark psychology aspect to it that's really disturbing.
Is it
Now-
go on?
I was gonna say, when I was little, I finally figured out so when this family had turned Jehovah's Witness, and they couldn't celebrate holidays anymore. As a little kid, I instantly was like, they're trying to separate us or isolate that family from all the other families because they couldn't celebrate birthdays. The kids were it was the worst thing that could ever happen to kids. They couldn't celebrate no more, and it was at a random. This family was Christian. They go to our church, and all of a sudden, they're not allowed to celebrate. I'm like, celebrate what? They weren't allowed to celebrate, and that's hanging out with, getting in with other people, family on Christmas, and it just seemed like a way to isolate them with their little cult.
Yeah,
I have very strong memories of being in elementary school, and there was one Jehovah's Witness family, and whenever we sang the birthday song in elementary school, they would have to go stand outside in the hall. They couldn't be in the classroom. And I just remember the exact same thing, everything about his posture and the way he presented himself. He was so just separate from everybody else. So yeah, it's interesting to see those examples just turn up. Once you start looking into this stuff, you start realizing, going back to my point of this not being just a freak phenomenon, but this being part of the human experience. Once you get into this stuff enough, you start seeing little culty shit everywhere, and you think, man, is everything a cult? Is the world a cult?
I think everything is a cult, man. I think it's just we're like mammals, man. We run in herds, and some of our herds are through psychological and philosophical beliefs, right? I mean, and we just tend to gravitate to those who think like us, which is crazy. I'm an old school liberal. You've labeled yourself the leftist. We have a lot of right people on here. I want to hear from everybody. I like to hear from all sides of the spectrum. I think that's what makes this show great. But there's a lot of people who just want to hear from people they agree with. And that sounds super duper boring to me. Just like hanging out in an echo chamber and just yelling the same things at each other, siloing life. But there are people who do that, man. And it's like a big thing is in these, like, even if they're not like considered cults, right? They're like just fringe religions, whether it's like, and I got nothing against Mormons, and honestly, I got nothing against Scientologists. I always said they were like the CW and the WB of religions, right? They were just like, some people got those cable channels, some didn't, but they have their interesting things too. And I think over time, common sense tends to wean out a lot of the crazier stuff if the religion gets established. But there's a lot, it's very it can get very shaky there for a while. It's what's the word I'm looking for? It can get very clumsy and while trying to figure everything out. And like there's so, when you brought up the Indian children there is so much darkness in our history.
Yeah.
Now I think it's hard to hold people who are here today to make them pay for what happened. I mean, we have to recognize it, but to sit there and yell at people about something they had no say in is kind of rough. But man, that happens all the time. And it's just like these people figure out games. And usually like what it is they just put their own spin on a philosophy that has been around forever, right? Like you brought up AA, which has been around forever, but AA, then there's this siren, and then boom, it's just off. Now it's about UFOs in the Arizona desert, right? And it's just people just keep manipulating, and then they also know that they're like, I believe, like when I walk by the Scientology buildings all the time in LA, I look at the people there, and they're standing outside, and there's nothing against them. But there's nothing that blows you away characteristically about them. And LA can be real tough. I used to have a joke about it. Like if you want to make it in LA, there's a couple groups you got to join. One of them is Scientology, right? Yeah. And I just think people are so desperate to be a part of something that they're willing to sacrifice some individuality to be brought into the herd and accepted, and that like we all want to connect in a natural way or an unnatural way, and these leaders prey on that. They almost break us down and then psychologically build us up, and through the building up, that's when we get hooked on their smack.
Yeah, absolutely. I really think that if you look back at like, if you could turn the clock back, the calendar back, and go to like, Ireland before the Romans got there, and you're talking about small clans and kingdoms and tribes and stuff. I think those kind of groups were more similar to what we call cults now than, it's like, I think there's something inherent about that need to belong and that need to connect, that need to know who's below you on the ladder, who's above you on the ladder, that probably served a very useful purpose in 500 BC, might not serve a useful interest now in the in the social media age.
Well, I mean, social media is almost like its own cult, right? Everybody has followers, and you're loading up on your followers, and and then you're like, if you're a hot chick on Instagram, you're just revered as a goddess. You're like, I like to beep, beep, boop, boop. And you're like 10 billion likes. You're like, yeah. And I'm important. You're like, what?
And the people who program the thing know that and do it on purpose. Like, they introduced reels on Instagram, and it's like, I've never once clicked on a reel that's like a hot chick, but that's what they give you. Like, it's like, it's not like it learned that I like looking at those pictures. It's like they knew when they built the app that that's what's going to sell it, and it's like, and what are the ramifications of that? They've done multiple studies that have proven that children's, young girls' self-esteem's ruined by these apps, by these things. You know, it feeds into mental illness, but you know, the click is you know, that's the big money maker these days. So
Yeah, for sure. And you know, so it just becomes, what kind of cult are you a part of? Like
right,
everybody's a part of a cult, you know.
exactly.
And it's like outside we go, oh, you're a crazy person. You ever gone to a concert and like someone brought you to a concert and you had no clue who the bands were? And just like everyone's like, song starts playing, everyone's going nuts. You're like, I have no clue what you're excited about. Why are you excited about this song? People are like, I can't believe they're playing this song. Like, what is this song? Like, that's kind of what cult is. You like end up drinking this kind of Kool-Aid and you start figuring it out. So is this cult still going?
Oh yeah. Yeah, they're going. They had some rough times for a while. They couldn't figure out a rough patch where they couldn't figure out how to make money because the cult needs money. And they got into the hemp business. So they have a hemp farm now, and apparently they're really raking it in. So they locked down after, you know, when COVID hit, they locked down and fired a lot of their non-cult member staff. But I've been, you know, I do have my little spies in the cult that kind of report back to me once in a while. But the leader is getting old. He has poor health. He's in his 70s and he's going to be dead soon. So they're kind of like preparing. It's an interesting time. They're preparing for the transition to his children taking over. And nobody really knows, will the cult fall apart at that point? Will they turn into something more benign, you know, something less damaging? I mean, will it just become a business like the Shakers or a lot of these like cultish groups that formed in America around the colonial era just became like businesses, or just disappeared, or just became, you know, kind of more mainstream Christian religions? Like any number of those things could happen, but they're kind of like in a holding pattern right now while their leader kind of.
That's the most interesting show I would ever watch. Like,
yeah,
you just basically inherit a cult. You're like, and now you're in charge. And you're just like, I don't really want to do this. You're like, no, it's yours. Jebediah. It's like, I'm Steve. Jebediah, it is your cult. And you're like,
Oh, and his sister like really wants it, but she's a woman, so she can't, you know, and she's like, oh, fuck. It's like Game of Thrones.
Yeah, it's so interesting, man. That is. So as you studied this cult, what were some of the more interesting rituals or teachings that you thought like, wow, that's kind of crazy? Like, was there like, this is the day we all stare at your wife naked, it's Thursday, or something like that, right?
Yeah. Well, one that gets cited an awful lot is they have a practice. They call it the chip game. It's not really a game. And it doesn't involve chips, but it used to involve poker chips.
What? It's not a game. It doesn't involve chips, but it's called the chip game.
It's called the chip game. Yeah, I mean, and like what it is it's a spiritual practice. It's supposed to help you grow. And the way it works is like you're living your life and somebody else in the cult does something that either does something wrong or says something critical, or even just gives you the impression that they're sinning in some kind of vague way. They chip you, which is what they call it, but they fill out a form saying what you did. They hand it to the person, and then they hand it to the leader. And the person that gets the form is supposed to meditate on it, figure out what they did wrong, and then respond on the form. And it's pitched as a way of like teaching you to like catch your negative thoughts and behaviors and attitudes and correct them. But really what it is they're creating a roadmap of like the behavior and the thoughts of the entire cult at any moment in time. So if the cult leader wants something or wants to manipulate somebody, he just goes into the files and looks it up.
Oh my God, for sure,
brilliant.
man.
I mean, it's genius.
Yeah, it's like the hey, Catholic Church is on line 4. They said stop stealing our blackmail.
Or Scientology, same way with their,
right?
I mean, it really is. It's like an example. It's like confession from the Catholic Church combined with like
auditing, right?
computers,
Scientology.
like data intelligence, it's like number
Yeah.
crunching or whatever.
Well, that has always been there has been talk, and I push back on it, and I shouldn't even bring it up, but I'm going to, that there's an aspect of AA that's part of that. That there is an aspect of like you telling somebody all the crazy shit you've done. That information's out.
Yeah.
And when I hear you say this chip game, it sounds exactly like social credit score, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
You are basically telling the people in charge what the other people are doing. And that's a manipulation control. So now it's like, what if there's a quota? What if there was a quota on this that you had to get in 5 chips by the end of the week, and now you're just writing stuff on people left and right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And that's what happens. They're like, you're not chipping enough. You need to step it up.
Hey, man, you're not
crazy.
Can I ask about sin? Is that sin mostly based on biblical teachings? What qualifies as sin, or is that pretty arbitrary?
It's they're basing it off of a book called the Urantia book, which is
just on that
a channeled book by somebody who talked to the spiritual entities in the universe, and that's based on the Christian Bible. So a lot of it is really Christian, but this guy comes from, like, there was a weird time in the 70s when there were a lot of really abusive Christian sects that started to take hold. Like the shepherding movement was one, which basically, like, you couldn't just be a good Christian. You had to have a shepherd, somebody above you who, like, in extreme cases told you who to marry or it just told you how to live your life. It's kind of like Gabriel has taken the worst of modern Christianity, the New Age movement, like the doomsday Christianity of, like, the late great planet Earth kind of left behind stuff, and just put his own spin on it. And what he does is he just sits around all day reading these books and coming up with this stuff, and then he'll have a ceremony where he'll sit down and all his followers will sit down and they'll light candles and they'll play, like, Enya or something. And then, and he'll start speaking in a funny voice and talking about all this stuff that, and they think, oh my God, he must be a genius. He comes up with all this stuff about, the cosmos and nuclear physics and, spiritual practices. And it's like, yeah, that's all he does all day is think about this stuff. So, but when you're in that mindset, you think that it's like really profound.
How successful is this group? Is it a big group? I mean, are they recruiting actively still? Is it
like, what's its numbers at? What's its Facebook numbers at?
Yeah,
is it like,
what's its social credit score? They have, since they started in the late 80s, early 90s, they've averaged 100 to 120 members. That's usually like a number of families. So you have like 3rd, I think even 4th generation members now. They have millions of dollars in the bank. They own a hospice. So if you're on your last legs in, if you're living in Arizona and you're on your last legs and your family needs a hospice nurse, they call these cult members up and they come.
That's unbelievable.
And then they like try to talk you out of like or so I've heard, just to give the legal disclaimer. So I've heard from these hospice nurses who have left, allegedly, they'll talk you into like, you're not going to be using that motorcycle when you're dead, are you?
Oh,
that kind of thing.
Oh,
that happens way more than people think. That happens way more than people think.
Oh.
Yeah. So that's how they make their money. And they have a, like I said, a hemp farm. So, I mean, it's a beautiful place. I spent about 5 hours there in 2019. And it's like, it's in Arizona, but it's in the Santa Cruz River Basin. So it's a fertile basin on a river about 20 miles north of Mexico. It's green. When I was there in spring, it looked like, I was like in, on the East Coast or something in the woods, like in New England, it was very fertile, very green. They have a farm there. They have all these beautiful buildings that they built with slave labor, essentially, allegedly slave labor. You know, they built all the buildings and stuff. And you go there and it just seems awesome. You know, it just seems wonderful. And then turns out that, you know, people are literally enslaved. So looks can be deceiving.
That's unbelievable. That's unbelievable. It's so crazy, man. 100 people. Does that seem like a lot?
It's a lot, but it's not a lot. I mean, like, you know, sometimes I tell people that and they're like minds blown, like, whoa, with that 100 people. And it's like, when you're there, it's a large bustling community, but like when you're talking Scientology numbers, it's, you know, small.
My question is it an aging group of followers? How do they recruit new followers? Are they just sending out all the hot chicks to the bar and they're just like, coming out? Dude, we give up pussy all the time. It's the best religion ever.
Well, you know, it's gone through a few different phases. Like in the 80s, they were based in Sedona. And it's like, you can't toss a nickel without hitting a guru in Sedona. So people would find them and would just kind of find them naturally. And then it became like, no, you have to excuse me. My family came home and they're driving me nuts. You mind if I go close my door?
Yeah, do whatever you want, brother. It's all good. I just find this stuff so interesting.
This just reminds me of when we were in Vegas for episode 500 and the guy thought we were a cult.
Well, everybody thinks we're a cult. Oh, yeah, when we were at the Tropicana and guys like, who's this guy in a hat yelling at people? I'm like, fire, brimstone, go on.
But yeah, the recruiting now is they're kind of self-sustaining because there's nothing for these poor kids to do except get married as soon as they turn 18 and crank out kids and then get divorced and then marry. Like, it's insane. I talk to people who are like, you know, escaped living on the outside with a woman who was married to his brother on the inside. And now his brother is married to his ex-wife. So it's just like nonstop. Right. And it's very puritanical in the sense it's like, these kids aren't having sex or going on dates, you know, or trying to have sex, you know? So it's like they're getting married as soon as they can. And then they're getting split up and getting married again. And so it's kind of self-sustaining, but they like, you know, the guru does have a pretty robust social media presence. So people from all over the world contact them and, you know, and they kind of talk them into joining. But now what's happening is people contact them. And then when they Google them, my book's the first or second thing that comes up. So, you know, they call me or their family calls me and they're like, and they're like, my whatever, you know, my mom's trying to join this cult and they want her to give them all their money. So, you know, we're kind of doing a little damage there, that was really my whole purpose. Like, even though I think it's a horrible group, I'm very, you know, I try to be very clear that it's America. You can believe whatever you want, but you need to be informed. So I just wanted my work on this subject to pop up when people Google this guy, so then they can make an informed decision. I actually have spoken to one guy who like didn't join because he saw the cult leader attacking me and was just so disgusted by it that he like, my family's not coming at after all, you know, and like, you know, Gabriel doesn't like that. Not one bit.
Couple questions. Legally, have they faced any trouble? And if not, what are some of the potential legal? What have they done that's probably illegal, allegedly?
It would be really hard to sue them. You know, like the main thing, you know, I've spoken to like investigators and lawyers who've tried to like put together lawsuits. And the main thing would be, you know, if you're a guy who's 40 years old and you grew up from age 16 to age 35 in this group working for free, you have nothing to show for it. and you have, doing manual labor for like, one of their contracting companies they own or something, having medical problems, having, COPD because you've been inhaling all this, concrete dust and you didn't have proper masks for decades since you were, high school aged. You should have a really good case against them for, no wages and for screwing your health up. But it's a weird case, and it's not like a one that you're definitely going to win. So a lot of lawyers just aren't going to take that on. You would have to find like a really you'd have to find a crusader that really wanted to take the cult on to do that. And nobody's found one yet. The main legal problems they have are custody, child custody, because you have some really awkward situations where like one parent will leave the group and then one parent's in, one parent's left. They're fighting over the kid. The cult wants the kid. So like you have this person that, the cult with their millions of dollars of money, can hire a great lawyer to go after you. And you, as the ex-cult member, haven't been working, don't have money to pay for a lawyer, probably not educated because those kids aren't educated. Like that's the main legal arena. And when you're in a situation like that, the courts don't want to hear about cults. They don't want to hear about religious beliefs. It's kind of like, going to them with this group has a past history of taking advantage of people because they're a religious cult. The court doesn't want to hear that. They want a very simple, streamlined case of are there damages? Who was damaged in this? And in our court system, that's generally not particularly, it's generally not easy to prove that kind of thing.
Did you hear any crazy stories about how people left and the things they had to go through to get out?
Yeah. I mean, everybody I've spoken to who has left, and it's probably 6 or 8 people, off the top of my head, it's like, you're not trapped there. You can leave anytime you want. You can go to the leadership and say, I want to go open the door. You're behind an electronically locked gate. It's like, it's like Mission Impossible. Like they have to enter the code and then the gate opens, but you can leave, but you leave with nothing. They don't give you don't get $20. You don't get a bottle of water. You get nothing. Clothes on your back. So what ends up happening is the X-Men, and also they're so persuasive. It's, you're going to tell them that you want to leave. And by the time they're done talking to you, they've convinced you that you want to stay for another 100 years, So what ends up happening is in the middle of the night, there's a network of ex-members who are all, it's like a little subculture of ex-members, a little community of ex-members that are all in touch, where if you want to get out, you contact one of them and they'll come to the fence, and you can hop the fence in the middle of the night with your backpack, with your clothes or whatever, and they'll take you and kind of hook you up. So it's, it's not Jonestown walking in the jungle for 2 days, trying to escape, but people are trapped there. They, if you've been there for 20 years, you don't have any money, you've pissed off your whole family, so none of them want to talk to you. How are you going to start over?
Are they as militant as Scientologists? I mean, militant, not literally, but do they harass the ex-members in that way?
Yeah. They're very the ex-members who have stuck around Arizona and run into them publicly have, all have stories about that. It's not like Scientology where they go out of their way to harass you, but they're not welcome. They're not welcome to the community. They're not welcome to talk to them if they see them outside of the community, but they're not militant like Scientologists or the Jonestown people. It's really, Gabriel, the leader, wants to have a good life. He thinks he deserves to have, a pretty young wife, he thinks he deserves to be able to trade in his old not so pretty wife for a prettier young wife. He wants to live in a mansion. He thinks he deserves to have, Perrier.
No, I
and,
don't, bro.
And
Too
it's
much
like,
work, bro. When you get to a certain age, you're like,
Mhm.
the expectations of a young chick, it's just too
Mhm.
much. I just want to sleep. I don't want to go out and do stuff. Imagine if you're 60, a cult leader, and you're like got a new 20-year-old wife. I don't care how powerful you are as a cult leader, your wife still scares the shit out of you. Okay. And she grinds you constantly that she's bored and she wants to do something. You never go out to eat. You never do anything. And and you're just like, I'm 60. I'm running a cult. I just want to sleep. Like, no, we don't go out anymore. You don't love me. And it's like, dude, no, thank you. Let me go to sleep.
And his new model does that. Like his new partner is very much like he's a little henpecked for sure.
I think like, dude, how can you not? How can you not be? I mean, that's everyone wants a super young wife, but it's like, dude, that comes with a lot of work and a lot of expectations.
Yep.
I just want somebody who just wants to just chill. That's the biggest thing. If you find somebody who does that, you're good to go. So as we wrap it up here, what is their salvation? Like, what do they like? If you do this, you'll get this.
Well, it's basically they believe that, as you live through successive lives, you get closer to, I think they call it the mansion world. So whatever part of the universe is kind of like their heaven. And, if you toe the line with Gabriel, you'll get closer. If you don't, you won't get closer. So really, they're Christians. They're trying to get to heaven. They just think that they get to heaven through this guy.
So crazy, dude. It's just so crazy where, like, I believe history's been completely manipulated, rewritten, hidden over and over. You study it long enough, you're like, what is that? Where did that come from? Why is that? And it's just super interesting. But I always find it so weird where, like, somebody follows somebody that was like born in the 80s and they like suddenly they figured it all out, right? You're like, oh, you were born in like 82 and you know what happened, how the universe is all like, you just discovered this shit. Like, we went to high school together. What are you when did you become this divine thing that has this new take on everything? And everyone's like, yeah, he totally gets it. And it's just so interesting that, when new religions, like everything's from Hinduism, and then it just all like becomes like somebody makes their own kind of spin on it. And now you got all these different religions that are all saying the same thing in a different kind of spin. And it's just like, dude, when was Mormonism founded? Like, again, nothing against Mormons. I was just in Salt Lake. They're the nicest people ever. And if it makes you happy, totally do that. Just totally do it. Whatever. If you're a good person, I believe there's only one sin in the world, and that is bringing pain and suffering to others. Outside that, do whatever you want, be whoever you want. I don't care about any of that, dude. As long as you're not hurting people, in particular children, do whatever you want. But it's just so interesting when like someone comes out and like when there was, colored television and suddenly figured out, this new spin on how everything works. And I find it interesting.
Yeah. And, it's like getting a little older, I'm in my late 40s now. And it's like,
you don't look it. What age would you have guessed he was?
Whoa.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm young. I would say you were like early 30s, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I got a, little baby face, I guess. But,
you're probably getting like, young chicks too. You're like, oh, I just want to sleep. Write me $1.
So I can relate to Gabriel. But, it's like, I'm old enough now that I'm starting to see like these patterns play out in popular culture, like shit that I observed in my 20s, I observed in my 30s. And then, in the 40s, things happens. I'm like, oh, I remember that. I've seen this happen before. Nothing's new under the sun. And it's like, I think that's the value of history and studying books like this is so when, that next new thing that's so profound comes out, you can realize, oh, this is a con, somebody's tried this before,
Yeah. And then the internet helps with that. The internet, there's a permanent record of the stuff that these people have been pulling on us for a very long time.
Right.
It's just the world is so interesting, man. It is. Joseph, great show. Thank you so much for coming on. One more time, tell them the name of your book, where they can find you.
Thank you for having me, guys. This has been great. My book is called New Age Grifter, the true story of Gabriel of Urantia and his cosmic family. And anywhere books are sold, Amazon or bookshop.org, you can get it. And be sure to check out my newsletter. It's called, go to failedstateupdate.com.
Yeah, just send me all the links. I'll make sure to include them.
Great.
In everything. And dude, how long is your book?
Like 200 pages, 190 something.
Not bad, dude. That's a nice size book.
Yeah.
I'm just reading this thing on Alan Dulles. It's like 600 pages. I'm like, I might get this done by the time I'm 70.
Yeah, that's right.
That guy sucked.
Hey, he's definitely.
Make sure your producer gives me a mailing address. I'll make sure you guys get some books if you want.
For
them.
sure. I'll email you a PO box, send it to us. And again, dude, thank you so much for coming on. Everybody, thank you. I hope you enjoyed the show. Check out Joseph's his newsletter. And I hope if you're in the San Diego area, you come see me in San Diego this weekend at the American Comedy Company with Howie Dewey and my friend Chris Neff from Cash Daddies. And 2022 is looking like it's going to be on fire in terms of live dates. We got some great stuff coming. We're going to do some dates, and we're also going to do some pay-per-view events. So join us. It's going to be great. We love you very much. Hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.
We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
Tinfoil hat.